Good afternoon. I'm Steve Eisenhart. I'm a Senior Vice President at the Space Foundation in Colorado and a Vice President of the International Astronautical Federation. I'm very pleased to be hosting and moderating this panel today. As we have seen throughout the week, the global space sector is experiencing significant expansion, and with it, a number of security challenges. In response, the IAF Security Task Force was formed, addressing one of the pillars of the SIS agenda. The focus of this GNF session is the critical importance of operating safely and responsibly within the space domain. We intend over the next 30 minutes or so to raise awareness about security challenges, stimulate academic debate, and to catalyze the development of collaboration. All things that the Federation is very keen on. I'm pleased to be joined by two experts with strong credentials in this field and who serve on the IAF Security Task Force. First, to my left, Dr. Anil Kumar, Associate Director at the Indian Space Research Office, and Yuri Oran, the Director of the Israeli Space Agency. Anil, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. Good afternoon. We are all talking about sustainability, security, safety of space operations for proper utilization of the space. For the future generations, we have to safeguard our space for its maximum utility. For that, we require, like Chair already said, like agenda on SIS agenda, security, investment, and sustainability agenda of IAF. We are following it up. Now, regarding the security threats, when we consider, actually, in fact, there are three different areas. One is natural threats. Natural threats comes from, as you know, planetary defense is one of the area where asteroids, comets, meteorites, from that natural threats, and we are all looking into planetary defenses, defense strategies to overcome the natural threats. Other one is the other area is the intentional threats. Intentional threats are, as all of you know, that frequency jamming, inspector satellites, anti-satellite tests, direct energy weapons. These are all coming under intentional security threats. And lastly, but very importantly, third one is the man-made objects, accidental collisions among the space objects, and orbital breakups, which generates a lot of fragments. We know that the space debris environment is growing just like that, and number of objects in the orbital space is too high, and which leads for close approaches and the collision probabilities. So these three areas, natural as well as intentional as well as the accidental, these three areas we have to take necessary steps, and we should have necessary environmental awareness and knowledge and technical capabilities to handle these threats.
Yuri, how about some preliminary remarks too?
Yeah, good afternoon. I like your warm-up exercise, but I think really we are the warm-up group before Elon Musk speaking, so that's where we are regarding to the timelines. But again, thanks very much for the opportunity on the stage to discuss this very, very important matter. I think first of all we have a challenge of language. What exactly is secure space? I think we are lacking the definition, not because somebody is wrong and somebody is not in the right page, because it's still new and it's still complex. But I think this is a challenge that we need to overcome in the upcoming very, very few years in order to develop a common language. That's going to be very, very, very important. To my understanding, when we are discussing secure space is eventually the freedom to act freely in the space domain, by all actors actually. And with that, the way I understand the main risks is probably those risks. The first one, which I consider probably the most eminent one, is cyber. The way we can affect our ability to operate in space could be easily affected by cyber activities. So, and again, the term cyberspace is already occupied by somebody else. So what exactly do we mean by cyberspace in the space domain, or cyber in the space domain? But I think it's probably obvious to everyone. But cyber is a main threat. Another threat is the space debris. Just the last week, the FCC found for the first time, I think for the first time, a satellite company with a $150,000 fee about not using or leaving kind of a space debris. But I think space debris probably is the second largest threat to act freely. And following that is the space traffic management. Those are the main risks. But I would like to go a little bit backward and to try to describe the way I see the importance of dealing with those risks. Because without dealing with them, and I guess in the upcoming questions we'll deal with the solutions, but without dealing with them, we'll find a domain with probably a very, very violent competition that could risk all of us that trying to operate and building a community and economy in that domain. So dealing with those risks is essential.
You sort of defined what you thought was the most important aspect of security. How about you, Anil? How do you feel about what the most important aspect is?
Considering the important activity regarding the security threats, what we are seeing it. One is like my colleague is telling, space traffic management for as far as space debris and launch vehicles are concerned, satellites are concerned. It is one of the area in which more vigorous activities are required, space traffic management. But as of we know that we have, as on not today, we have only 5 treaties which is directing the space for proper use, like Outer Space Treaty, Rescue Agreement, Liability Convention, Registration, like that. But after that, many years back, these are all made. But later, there are very, very, very less activities for legally binding instruments. Okay, we know that IAD's Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee has brought out debris mitigation guidelines, which was later accepted by UN COPUOS as well. But that is not sufficient, in fact, to cope up with the present situation of security threats, whatever we are seeing in the space.
Let's turn the question a little bit. What do you consider the biggest threat in space security?
So again, I understand that the biggest threat eventually is a physical destruction of a specific asset. That's probably is the biggest threat. Now there is a few ways to do that, but if you're asking what is the biggest risk or the biggest threat, that is the one. And if that's going to happen, the whole industry will go backward. And I think our common goal is to make sure that it won't happen. Now, it could happen, from a space debris. It could happen from somebody's doing something to someone. So it could happen in quite a few ways. But if you're asking about the threat and what is the biggest risk, a physical destruction of a satellite, I think that's the biggest risk. There's others, but if we need to point at one, that's the one.
Yeah, I just want to add that the technology, whatever we are going to develop, whether it is for on-orbit servicing or active debris removal, and which requires a lot of attention, and it has got dual use as well as destructing another satellite or capturing another satellite. So those type of things we have to have international coordination and agreements so that that should not become a real security threat for satellite operations and spacecrafts.
Scientific and exploration missions have some unique security challenges. Obviously, crew safety is probably paramount. We'd like to comment about that a little bit. Let's go first.
Yeah, regarding first of all, human space missions, we are all discussing that now presently due to various considerations, 400 kilometer is considered as the orbital band for human space missions, and considering the orbital perturbations, whatever there, we are always telling that 400 kilometer plus or minus 30 kilometer band should be avoided for any other space missions or satellite missions. So that has to be accepted globally, and people has to take care. And also orbital crossing through these bands should be taken very clearly. Only maneuverable satellites should pass through these orbital bands, otherwise it will be a security threat to all human space missions. Space exploration missions, yes, apart from the man-made threats, whatever we are telling about the accidental threats, there are natural threats as well. Radiation hazards are there, and if there is a frequency jamming, that can give problems, and especially telecommanding, encrypted way telecommanding has to be done, otherwise malicious activities can happen. So these are all important threats for space exploration missions.
Anything to add, Yuri?
Just a quick note. Space exploration, when you involve humans in the process, the risk is higher. But eventually, I believe that we'll end up basically with the same family of threats. But once there are humans involved inside, then the risk is something that basically we cannot accept.
And obviously, if we lose the capability for scientific because of security lapses, it's just a giant loss. We'll be taking a couple of questions from the audience. We've got just a very few more minutes. But first, the Federation's launching a great new conference next year, the inaugural GLOS conference. Can you tell us a little bit about that? It's going to be taking place in Tel Aviv?
Yeah, so first of all, logistic. The first week of June, 2026 in Tel Aviv, we're gonna have the GLOS conference with the headline of secure space. We are intent to deal, I guess, with at least 3 components of what I believe should be the answer to secure space: technology, regulation and norms, and cooperations between different players. So it's 3 different areas that eventually need to be combined and need to be connected in order to have an answer. So the basic theme is to try to have dialogues on those very different aspects. What technology can we bring to the table? What type of cooperations between different players? And I'm using the word players because they're not necessarily governments. The private sector act is a very, very important player. Just imagine or just think about the importance of companies such as Microsoft, Google, or Apple to mitigate cybersecurity in space. So it's not only governments. And norms and regulation are critical. And beside that, Tel Aviv, it's a very nice place to visit. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting as well as big fun.
Yeah, this is one of the opportunity for me to also tell about the global conference on space exploration, which is going to happen in India, New Delhi, in 2025 May. So in that, whatever your question, whatever you ask the question, the security aspects of space exploration will be discussed. So I request you please block your dates for Delhi Global Conference on Space Exploration 2025.
Well, then I'll have to take a turn to say, and we'd love to see you in Colorado, April 8th to 11th for the Space Symposium. Any questions from the audience real quick? We've probably got time for maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Told you, everybody is waiting for Elon.
Yeah, I am seeing a huge crowd there. They are all waiting for Elon Musk's interview. So it is nice, and actually, I just want to tell one more thing. As a vice president of IAF, I want to emphasize on our SIS agenda. A lot of activities are going on that. That is sustainability, investment, and security. This agenda is going into a very big form with many 3 important committees or committees on sustainability, investment, and security are discussing, charting out many of the programs. So within the 3 years time frame, I hope a definite document will come out on SIS agenda. Please follow our SIS agenda through iafastro.org as well.
Thank you. Thank you. On the comment? I'm sorry.
If you don't have any questions, I would like to encourage all of us to look at the opportunities of secure space and not only at the risk. The technology need to be developed, and once there is a new technology there, opportunities are going to be open. So I encourage all of us to look at the opportunities and not only at the risk.
Great.
Yeah, I just want to make one more comment. And we were discussing about Earth orbits. Now these security threats or collision threats are going to other areas like cislunar lunar orbits. So because as a number of space exploration missions will go up, that also will become a concern. So it is better to take care, all the agencies take care that issue, that is close approaches or sustainability of the cislunar region, also into consideration while designing the missions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank the audience. For any of you who came in thinking you were going to hear Elon Musk right now, just consider us the warm-up act. He'll be on in a little bit. Please join me in a round of applause for our panelist here.